He has treated this function today as his own and is more of our esteemed host than a guest. Honorable the CJI, may I only inform this august house that it is only Nitish Kumarji during the time of COVID who could give me more than 2,000 posts, 1,600 for the establishment of the High Court and remaining for the lower courts. I extend a cordial welcome to the gracious Chief Minister. We also extend a cordial and affectionate welcome to Shri Ravi Shankar Prasad, the Distinguished Minister of Law and Justice, Union of India. He is in fact one of us. It is homecoming for you, sir. For him, the distinction of designation as a senior advocate, rightfully earned, came at a relatively young age. His passion and devotion for public service was acknowledged in his nomination and subsequently election as a member of both the houses of India's parliament, which indeed is a rare distinction in itself. As a senior minister, he has been spearheading the Digital India program, the backbone of the Indian economy. The impetus for digitalizing the courts given by the respected minister is already showing rich dividends. We heartily and warmly welcome you today, sir. Honorable Mr. Justice Naveen Sinha, Judge Supreme Court of India, needs no introduction. He is credited for having championed the cause of the needy and the downtrodden. His Lordship is also known as a strict disciplinarian. He played a vital role in the High Court's computerization, firstly at Patna and then at Chhattisgarh and Rajasthan. His work under the Legal Services Authority is legendary. We also welcome him. Sister Miss Justice Indira Banerjee is gifted with unassuming persona. Her actions, full of nobility, are only with the avowed object of pursuing the justice's cause, more so in training and inspiring the judicial officers at the judicial academies. Her presence on the bench and at this occasion ensures judiciary's commitment to gender equality, enhancing fairness of adjudication from that perspective. She is an extremely generous host. Honorable CJI, sir, I must request you to share a meal with her someday. We welcome her also. The reference of the name of Honorable Mr. Justice Hemant Gupta, Judge Supreme Court of India, invokes an image which he is of a kind and a gentle person. Indeed, a gentleman to the core. He has been championing the cause of the downtrodden by applying technology to optimize human potential and capabilities. We also welcome him. Most significantly, bound by brotherhood, love and affection, our distinguished elders and our mentors, by putting to personal discomfort and inconveniences, have responded wholeheartedly to our request by gathering on the sacred site of Patliputra. We feel immensely honored, sir and madam, by each one of yours presence. We are grateful for every just and rightful cause, followed the spirit of the Constitution of India given to us by the people through greats like Dr. Ambedkar. The fame and eminence of the renowned personalities of this court have never confined to the borders of the state. The court has the distinction of having the first president of this great nation, Dr. Rajendra Prasad, to have practiced here. So also the Constituent Assembly's first president, Shri Sachidanand Sinha. Eminent judges of this court stand appointed as judges of the Supreme Court, so also held the office of Chief Justice of India. We also have had a legendary Attorney General who had practiced before this court. The High Court's responsibility is to engage with the culture, traditions, practices and beliefs of the state they serve, while keeping in mind the letter of law and our founding document spirit and ideals. At the Patna High Court, I, along with my respected colleagues, ably assisted by all the officers and staff, have always tried our best to honor these ideals while having the rule of law, fundamental rights and duties as our guiding principles. The role of constitutional courts in the country is both collaborative in nature, at one level with the executive of the day in order to achieve the national objects and aspirations, yet at another level it becomes fiercely adversarial in nature to check the constitutional transgression. Despite being restricted to their respective domains in the Constitution, there is a commonality of purpose, that is, to uphold the constitutional values and the rule of law. The courts represent that part of the constitutional wing which is not electorally chosen as the people's representatives. Yet, in the Constitution, it is the courts which have been vested with the responsibility to ensure that the constitutional rights guaranteed to the people are safeguarded by them. The constitutional makers have provision for the independence of the judiciary to serve as the guardian and custodian of the Constitution. It is for achieving such purpose that we have magnificent court complexes. Here, with your permission, may I quote, sir, what Justice Stephen Breyer of the US Supreme Court had to say about the court buildings. And I quote, "The story that a building tells through its design may be as important to the community it serves as is its function. By shaping our thoughts about ourselves and our institutions, it will directly affect our efforts to work productively together." Unquote. Our actions, be it as a judge or member of the bar or part of the justice delivery system, in my considered view, must reflect the constitutional vision. For after all, in equal measure, we are stakeholders in the nation's development, enabling its transformation into a world superpower. Emphasizingly, I reiterate that during the time of COVID, right from the start, we were committed towards ensuring that the wheels of justice are kept moving, ensuring orderly management of flow of work, and that excess does not endanger public health. In achieving so, I must, with the permission of Honorable the CJI, compliment the efforts put in by the entire judiciary of Bihar, and more specifically, my respected brother colleagues, judicial officers, lawyers, and above all, the staff, including the Safai Karamchari, who stand directly exposed to the vagaries of the pandemic. It is no secret that a lot remains to be achieved in the vision set out for this country by those who struggled for its independence and gave us our guiding light, the Constitution. Before I conclude, I must quote what signifies our strength and lays down a clearer path for us to walk on, inevitably for the growth of this great nation. And I quote what the Honorable the First President of India, Dr. Rajendra Prasad, had to say in the Constituent Assembly. Quote, "Whatever the Constitution may or may not provide, the welfare of the country will depend upon the way in which the country is administered. That will depend upon the men who administer it. We have communal differences, caste differences, language differences, provincial differences, and so forth. It requires men of strong character men of vision, men who will not sacrifice the interest of the country at large for the sake of smaller groups and areas, and who will rise over the prejudices which are born of these differences. We only hope that the country will throw up such men in abundance. I welcome, unquote, I welcome you once again, Honorable the Chief Justice of India and all the other distinguished guests, and invite you to bless each one of you present here in person or through virtual mode, to bless on this occasion this great institution, a great temple of justice, enabling us to serve in a better state with each passing day. I wish good health and happiness to all of you.